Hello YouTube, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be looking at internet records for securing your email, specifically DKIM, DMARC, and SPF. Now, when I came in to make this video, I was like, I better do some research and just to see what some of my competitors in town are doing or some of the major businesses, and I saw some shocking results. So if you want to know what I found, keep watching. Hello again, YouTubers. I am Steve, and as mentioned, we're going to discuss securing your email. Please remember, if you enjoyed the video, to hit like at the bottom, and if you'd like to see more content, hit subscribe. Let's get started. So we're going to look at a few records here. We have the SPF record and the DKIM. Basically, there are records that verify that the email that you received actually came from where it's supposed to. So having these records in place is very important. The DMARC record is basically the handling of the first two, saying, what do I do with this email once we receive it? Do we reject it? Does it go into quarantine? Or do I just do nothing and note it? And then we're going to analyze an email header to find some information. There's tons of information in an email header. I'm sure any IT people have looked in them before. And we're going to look at inspecting a DMARC report. Not going to drill too heavy into that, but we will discuss. As mentioned, I was sitting down for this video and I'm like, okay, well, what are some of my competitors doing in town with their records and some of the major companies in town? So I sat down, opened up MX Toolbox, and started looking them up. Now, I'm not going to shame anybody or look them up, but what I found was with the SPF record, most people had them. There's a few grammar errors or syntax errors, I should say. But when I came down to the DMARC record, nobody had a DMARC record around here except for one person or one business. And even then, the syntax was incorrect, so it was failing. It just blew my mind, because at that point I'm like, wow, am I making this video for nothing? I'm like, do we really need these records? I think we do. That's why I'm going to continue making the video. But it was just some shocking findings that there are still lots of companies out there that are not implementing these records. And I think that anytime that you can secure your domain, your email, you can take any small measures, it's a benefit to everybody. So let's get started here. The first record is an SPF record. It's been around for a long time. If you don't have one set up, chances are that your email is going to go in people's junk inboxes or just get rejected. It really depends on how the email server is configured. But this is something, like I said, most companies have. If you look them up, they're going to have an SPF record of some sort, and they're all going to look a little different. They might have multiple names. Down here, I have a few examples of what they would look like. The first one here is from Office 365. The second one right here is more of one if it has Office 365 and then some IPs. So that's if you have multiple IPs sending email, then at least they're marked in here so that when they get verified, they'll pass the check. And something like the second line here is if you had like a hybrid exchange setup where emails are going to come from your local server as well as Office 365, depending on where the users are. So here I have my domain name that I'm just using for my videos. I've got it on Office 365. I pay for a single license, but I figured it'd be great just to do some testing and to make some videos with it. Office 365 is huge right now. Many companies are using it, so it's good to use it as an example. So I looked up to see if I had an SPF record. So I went to MX Toolbox, put in my domain. Sure enough, I got a pretty basic one. You know, the only emails is coming from one spot. Office 365 passes all the checks, and we're good. Next we have the DKIM record. Now its purpose is the same as the SPF, but it works by using a digital signature. So when someone sends an email, it'll be tagged with the private key, and then the receiver of that email, the receiving server, will look up the public key to see if they match the hash value. If the hash value is good, the email will be accepted and you go on with your day. Down here we look at two of the records that I made for subnetsystems.ca. I put those into my registrar as CNAMEs, and then Office 365, I go in there, I hit enable. Actually, we can look at that real quick. So when you go into your admin portal in Office 365, you're going to see the option here under protection, DKIM. You click on that. Now mine's already going to be enabled. So here you would see I could disable it, but I came in here, enabled it once the records were in, and then away I go, I was signing emails. The one thing to note as well is that when you're putting the selector, you can pretty much put any name you want. I selected these because when I was creating them for the first time, the website that helped me create my first DKIM records actually just put that in. But I've seen other companies put like Google or whatever name they want, so I don't really think that matters. But this is what I selected. Okay, let's look to see if subnetsystems.ca has a DKIM record. Now, the one different thing here is that you can't just look up the domain name like you did with other records. The DKIM requires that you know the selector as well. I know my selector because I've chosen it myself, but this is where it gets a bit tricky because you need to know it. The one way to find out what somebody's selector is to look at the email header of an email that you received from them. That information is in there. That's pretty much the only way that I know, but if somebody else knows a different way, comment below and let me know. So let's look it up. Loading. And there you have it. Here is the record. You can see the private key that was attached, green check marks, looks good. Now for the DMARC record, based on the status of the SPF and the DKIM, this is where it tells the email what it's going to do. Is it going to pass it, quarantine it, or reject it? It's a text record that you put in to your registrar, and you can see I have an example at the bottom of what it looks like. So I have it set to reject. So if it doesn't pass the SPF, it's just going to reject the email. Nice and easy. The next two, you can see there's an email address with RUA and RUF. The RUA is an aggregate record, and it's going to give you a status every day of the emails that have been rejected and accepted. And the RUF is a forensic, and you get failures in real time emailed to whichever email you put in there. Let's take a look at MX Toolbox. Here you go. I put in the domain, looking up the DMARC record, and gives you the status. Green, green, green. Looks good. My policy should be working. All is well. Next, we're going to analyze an email header. Now, the header gives lots of information. Where the email came from, who received it, the originating IP, which is usually the client's IP address of where it came from, whether they're logged into Outlook Web Access or using Outlook or whatever client they have, where it came from. So it gives you good information if like you're trying to figure out if someone got hacked. The authentication used, was it sent with TLS or just plain text? Did it pass the SPF check? Is there a DKIM signature? Did it pass? So let's take a quick look at that. All right, so I got a header here, pasted it in. We are going to analyze it. Now we see some red marks here, but I'd like to ignore those because I actually tried to hide some information inside the header for the video. So it failed, but usually it's okay, so take my word for it. Right here, we actually see selector 1, as I was explaining in the DKIM section, how you find a selector. Well, I put a header from a received email and then the selector 1 was in there. So that's how you could get the selector to look it up. And there's lots of other good information in here. You can see where I edited it, put test domain because it actually came from my business domain. And there's just tons of information. SPF passed, and there you go, pass again. IPs, Outlook addresses. I'm not too sure if I'll see originating IP in here, but that's really good when you're looking to see if someone got hacked, to say, okay, well, did it come from their office or did it come from somewhere else in the world? Because that'll give you an idea of you need to reset their password and kick them out, which I will save for another video. And finally, we have the DMARC report. I wrote a whole bunch of stuff in this slide, and you could pause it and glean over the information if you want. But basically, it's just a report of the email's authentication status. So let's just look at one quickly. So I took the report, comes in an XML format. I uploaded it. Now I'm going to say view report. And here we go. Domain report for subnet systems. And just gives you information about the report. I don't have much to say. Like I said, it's my personal YouTube domain on Office 365, so there's not a lot going on, but you know, it's pretty happy, green, 100%. If there were any issues, it would be reported in here, and then you can investigate further. One story I'd like to share with you is that I got an email from one of my clients saying that a company couldn't get any of her emails, and I was like, okay, so I investigated. And I thought in the back of my head, I've been putting these DMARC and DKIM records for some of my clients, but this is one of my smaller ones, so I haven't got around to them yet. And then I realized the company that they're emailing with, I know them very well. I know their security engineer, and I know how he liked to be very secure, to put it that way. So I'm like, I wonder if they're doing checks to say, well, if you don't have these records, well, we're not going to accept the email. I wouldn't put it past them. So what I did was I went and I set them up with their records like I was doing to my bigger clients. And I told my client the next day, try and send the email and see if it's all good. And the next day it was fine. So did something else happen, or did putting in those records make a difference? I don't know. But maybe there's going to be a time, like even when the SPF record came to be, that you needed to have these records in there in order for you to pass checks. It might not be enforced right now, but is there a start of having these records enforced? It very well could be. In my opinion, these records are very important, and if you don't have them implemented on your domain, you should put them in right now. If you have any comments or questions or anything incorrect with my video today, please leave the comments below. I love hearing feedback. If you liked the video, hit like. If you want to see more videos, hit subscribe. Thank you for watching.